There comes a quiet moment somewhere between the exhaustion and the striving where your soul whispers, enough. Enough holding it all together. Enough trying to fix what won't stay fixed. Enough pretending peace will come if you just push a little harder. You've carried so much, haven't you? The weight of expectations, of outcomes, of needing life to go your way. But what if the healing you long for doesn't come from holding on tighter? What if it begins the moment you stop? Stop fighting the current. Stop controlling the storm. Stop defining your worth by how will you keep it all in place. The Buddha once said, "You only lose what you cling to." And yet the world teaches you to cling to everything: success, relationships, control, certainty. But what if surrender isn't failure? What if letting go is actually strength? This video is not about giving up. It's about returning to stillness, to trust, to the soft power of presence. You'll discover that when you release your grip, you gain your life back. Not all at once, but breath by breath, moment by moment. So stay with me. We're not here to escape life. We're here to meet it, with open hands and an unburdened soul. Let's begin. We spend much of our lives believing a simple, dangerous lie. If I can just control everything, then I'll finally be at peace. So we grip tightly to people, to plans, to identities we've outgrown. We micromanage our days, manipulate conversations, rehearse outcomes, obsess over what might go wrong. We build emotional sandcastles and then panic when the tide comes in. But what if control is an illusion? What if the peace we crave isn't found in controlling life, but in cooperating with it? Buddhist teachings remind us of the concept of anicca, impermanence. Everything that arises must eventually pass. Trying to make the temporary permanent is like holding on to smoke. The tighter your fist, the faster it slips through. Think of a river. It flows effortlessly forward. It doesn't resist the bend in its path. It doesn't argue with rocks in its way. And yet, it still gets where it's going. We are the only creatures who try to control the river, rather than move with it. When you try to force people to stay, force outcomes to align, force the world to match your mind, you suffer. But when you loosen your grip, something strange happens. You don't fall. You float. You begin to see that control never brought peace, only anxiety disguised as safety. And in the letting go, you remember, it isn't asking you to dominate it. It's inviting you to dance with it. Reflection prompt. What's one thing you've been clinging to, not because it brings peace, but because you're afraid of what might happen if you let go? Take a breath. Name it. Then, release it. For now, letting go sounds simple, but if it were easy, you wouldn't still be here, holding on. So, why is it so hard? Because the things we cling to aren't just things. They're stories. They're symbols. They're survival strategies dressed as personality. You didn't hold on because you were selfish or weak. You held on because, at some point, it felt safer than falling. Letting go asks you to release the illusion that you are in control. But it also asks something scarier. It asks you to face the silence underneath. The what now? The empty space that control used to fill. In Buddhist psychology, the word tanha means craving, not just for pleasure, but for certainty, for permanence, for self-preservation. We chase control not because we love it, but because we fear what might happen without it. That relationship, even if it's draining you, feels familiar. That identity, even if it's limiting you, feels safe. That role, even if it's breaking you, feels earned. Letting go is hard because it feels like losing part of yourself. But here's the truth. What's real never asks to be clung to. Love doesn't demand your exhaustion. Peace doesn't require your perfection. Wholeness doesn't come from gripping harder. It arises when you release what never truly belonged. Imagine this. You're holding a rope that's burning your hands. You think, I can't let go, I'll fall. But what if the ground is only inches beneath you? Reflection prompt. What belief or fear keeps telling you that letting go means losing control, losing worth, or losing love? Is it true? Or is it just a shadow you've mistaken for safety? The truth is, letting go doesn't break you. It begins to uncover who you are beneath the grasping. There's a common misunderstanding when people hear the word letting go. They think it means becoming cold, indifferent, detached from life. But in Buddhist thought, non-attachment isn't the absence of love, it's the refinement of it. Non-attachment is not avoidance. It's not denial or emotional shutdown. It doesn't mean you don't care. It means your care is no longer conditioned on outcomes. In the Dhammapada, the Buddha teaches that attachments are the root of suffering, but he doesn't say to stop loving. He says, love without clinging. Be present without needing to possess. Give freely without expecting return. Think of the sky. It holds clouds, birds, rain, and light, but it never tries to keep any of them. It embraces them and lets them pass. That is non-attachment. Avoidance, by contrast, is fear pretending to be peace. It says, if I don't feel it, I won't get hurt, but all that does is delay the pain and block the healing. Avoidance runs away. Non-attachment walks gently alongside. Avoidance is resistance. Non-attachment is acceptance. This distinction is vital. You're not being asked to care less, you're being invited to care more wisely. Because when love becomes grasping, it creates tension. When care becomes obsession, it becomes a cage. But when love is free, when care is open, it breathes. Reflection prompt. Ask yourself, am I letting go with presence? Or am I avoiding with fear? One creates clarity, the other deepens confusion. Letting go, in its truest form, not an escape from feeling. It is a sacred return to balance, to honesty, to the heart unburdened by demand. You don't need to let go of love. You only need to release the need for it to look a certain way. There is a quiet revolution that begins the moment you surrender. Not the dramatic, crash and burn kind of surrender. Not collapse, not giving up, but the kind that feels like an exhale after holding your breath for far too long. Surrender is not the end of effort, it's the end of resistance. It's the soft space where your nervous system unclenches, where your inner walls begin to lower, where your heart, exhausted from controlling, fixing, striving, finally rests in the truth of what is. Something shifts inside. You stop fighting the moment. You stop arguing with reality. And in that stillness, your mind gets quieter, your breath deepens, your body, once armored by stress, begins to loosen its grip. You may cry, or you may feel nothing, and that, too, is healing. Because when you surrender, you give permission to feel, without needing to explain, justify, or solve. In neuroscience, this is called parasympathetic activation, the body's rest and digest mode. Spiritually, it is the space where grace returns. Emotionally, it's where your inner child, the one trying to be brave for so long, is finally held. Surrender brings you back to the present. And the present, unlike the anxious future or regretful past, does not require perfection, only your presence. Try this now. Place one hand over your heart. Close your eyes. Inhale softly, and on the exhale, whisper gently, surrender. Repeat it 3 times. Let the words soak into the bones of your being. Reflection prompt. What might happen if, just for this moment, you stopped resisting what is? What might open within you if peace no longer had to be earned? Surrender is not passivity. It's choosing to stop the war inside you. And from that, quiet healing begins. In a world addicted to motion, stillness seems strange, even suspicious. We're told to hustle, to chase, to respond faster, climb higher, fix more. But what if the peace you're looking for can't be found in more motion, but in less? What if stillness is not laziness, but clarity? You've probably noticed this. The more chaotic things get around you, the more you feel the urge to act, to fix, to do something, anything to regain control. It's natural. The nervous system hates uncertainty, so we overcorrect. We rush to solve what isn't ours, to finish conversations we were never meant to start, to hold together outcomes we were never meant to carry. But the mind in motion is not always wise. There is another kind of power, a deeper, quieter one. It comes not from domination, but from still presence. In Buddhist tradition, this power is called upik, equanimity. It means balance, serenity, composure. It doesn't mean you feel nothing. It means you no longer let what you feel control what you do. The equanimous mind does not jump at every emotion like a fish at bait. It watches, it allows, it breathes through the chaos without becoming it. Imagine a candle flame in a glass room. No matter how the wind screams outside, it does not flicker. That's you. When stillness is cultivated, Stillness does not mean silence. It means non-reactivity. You stop living in reflex. You stop being hijacked by your impulses. You begin to witness them instead. This is the seed of emotional mastery, not suppression, not avoidance, but the quiet, sacred pause between feeling and response. And in that pause, everything changes. In the modern world, reactivity is mistaken for strength. But strength is not how loudly you respond. It's how intentionally you respond. Stillness lets you choose that response, instead of being dragged into a storm not meant for you. Try this. The next time you feel triggered, don't rush to speak. Don't rush to fix. Don't even rush to understand. Just pause. 3 breaths. Eyes closed if needed. Feel the breath enter and leave. That's the space where transformation happens. That's the moment where you reclaim your power. You become like the mountain unmoved by passing storms. Not because the storm isn't real, but because you are rooted in something deeper than the wind. In the Dhammapada, it is written, like a solid rock is not shaken by the wind, even so the wise are not moved by praise or blame. This is the invitation of stillness, not to retreat from life, but to move through it with a kind of grounded grace, a spacious awareness, a calm that cannot be stolen. Stillness is not a lack of care. It is the art of caring without losing yourself in the process. Because sometimes, stillness is the loudest voice in the room, and the deepest strength is the one that never needs to shout. Reflection prompt: where in your life are you most reactive? What might happen if you simply paused instead of reacted? Not forever, just for a breath. A single moment. What would shift? Strength is often misunderstood. We picture strength as force or raised voice, a clenched fist, a bold confrontation. But some of the strongest people in the world are quiet, not because they're passive, but because they're rooted. This strength is not loud. It's not flashy. It's not interested in winning arguments or proving points. It is the kind of strength you feel when someone listens without interrupting, when someone holds space without trying to fix you, when someone could react, but chooses stillness instead. That is equanimity in motion, and it is one of the most profound disciplines of the spiritual path. What is equanimity? In Buddhist teachings, equanimity is one of the 4 immeasurables. It is not indifference. It is not apathy. It is full presence without reactivity. It is what allows you to be with pain, without collapsing, to be with joy, without clinging, to be with others, without controlling. Equanimity says, I will meet this moment fully, but I will not become it. This is not an easy strength. It's not built in the gym. It's built in the waiting room, in the heartbreak, in the miscommunication that you choose not to take personally. Equanimity is not born from having a perfect life. It's born from walking through the imperfect with grace. The daily practice of emotional balance you can begin training this strength right now. Not by removing problems, but by shifting how you hold them. When someone says something unkind, your mind will want to strike back, but you pause, breathe, feel your reaction rising, and let it pass. When anxiety comes, you don't fight it. You sit with it. Observe it like a cloud passing across the sky. When plans fall apart, you don't spiral into frustration. You return to your breath. You soften your shoulders. You remind yourself, this too is passing. Each time you do this, you strengthen the muscle of equanimity. It's not glamorous. It won't get applause, but it will give you something better than control. It will give you inner freedom. The myth of reaction equals power. Society rewards quick reactions, hot takes, sharp retorts, clapbacks. But true power is not in reaction. It's in restraint, not suppression. Restraint, the conscious choice not to feed chaos with more chaos. Equanimity allows you to respond instead of react. And in that space between trigger and response, you rise above the noise. As Viktor Frankl once wrote, between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. Strength, as still commitment. Equanimity isn't passive. It doesn't mean you don't care. It means you care without falling apart. You can stand for justice without hatred. You can feel grief without despair. You can love without attachment. You become steady. You become safe. You become someone whose presence is peace, not because you silence storms, but because you don't become them. Embodied practice, rooted like a tree this now. Sit upright, feet flat on the floor. Imagine your spine like the trunk of a great tree. With each breath, feel yourself rooted, stable, grounded. Let thoughts rise and fall like wind through branches. You don't have to control the wind. You only have to remain the tree. Stay here for a minute or two. This is what strength feels like. Calm, present, alive, still. Reflection prompt. When do you feel most pulled out of balance? What would it look like to stay present without needing to control or fix that moment? What if the most powerful thing you could do was simply not react? You've been taught to fix things, to be proactive, to solve, to make things better. And in many ways, this is a beautiful instinct to want to heal what's broken, to bring order where there's chaos. But somewhere along the way, this instinct turned into a burden. You stopped being a compassionate witness to life and started being responsible for all of it. You became the one who holds it all together, for your family, for your partner, for your past, even for your own pain. And when it doesn't work, when people don't change, when things fall apart, when life refuses to be fixed, you blame yourself. But here's a truth you may not have heard enough. It is not your job to fix everything. It never was. Healing is not always about action. Sometimes, it's about allowing, letting things unravel, letting emotions surface without being cleaned up, letting people face their own journey without controlling the outcome. The need to fix is often a mask for fear. We fix because we fear. We fear discomfort. We fear failure. We fear losing love, losing control, losing face. So we intervene, we advise, we manage, we overfunction, hoping that if we can just get it right, we won't have to feel what we're really afraid of. But the truth is, the deeper healing happens after we stop interfering. It's in the silence that comes when we no longer rush to save. It's in the trust that people will walk their own paths, even if they stumble. It's in the courage to say, I don't have to fix this to be worthy. The illusion of constant improvement. We live in a culture obsessed with optimization, self-help, endless upgrades, always trying to make ourselves and others better. But the soul doesn't grow by constantly being fixed. It grows by being seen, by being held, by being given space to breathe. Healing does not always look like progress. Sometimes it looks like rest, like falling apart, like standing still in the middle of the storm and whispering, even now, I am whole. Try this instead of fixing. Next time someone comes to you in pain, resist the urge to fix. Instead, ask yourself, can I listen without offering advice? Can I witness this without rushing to change it? Can I let them feel what they need to feel without making it about me? And when you are in pain, can you sit with yourself without needing to be better by tomorrow? Can you let the wound breathe? This is not apathy. This is mature love. In Zen, they say, don't just do something, sit there. Because presence heals what fixing cannot. True change happens from within. You may think letting go means giving up, but letting go is not quitting. It's trusting. Trusting that growth doesn't need your constant pressure, that healing can unfold without your micromanagement, that people can rise not because you carried them, but because you believe they could walk. You're not the savior, you're the space, the sacred, steady space where grace can do its quiet work. Reflection prompt. Where in your life are you trying too hard to fix something or someone? What might it feel like to step back and trust the process instead? We all want love, to be seen, to feel close, to know we matter, but somewhere along the way often turns into something else, into grasping, into needing, into holding on so tightly that the love itself begins to suffocate. Have you ever loved someone so much that the thought of losing them made you anxious, controlling, or even resentful? That's not because you're unloving, it's because you're human. But in Buddhist wisdom, we're reminded, grasping is not love. Grasping is fear wearing love's clothing. The sky and the cloud. Real love is like the sky. It holds the cloud, but does not try to trap it. It allows it to pass, change, shift form, and it remains spacious. True care doesn't cling. It doesn't demand. It doesn't say, you must be this way for me to be okay. It simply is. Love becomes painful when we tie it to identity or outcome. When they leave, I'm nothing. If they don't love me back, I'm unworthy. If I let go, I'll be alone. But the truth is, love doesn't need possession to be real. It needs presence. It needs honesty. It needs freedom. Detachment isn't cold. It's clear. An attachment doesn't mean you stop caring. It means your care stops becoming a demand. You can love deeply, but without needing to control how it's returned. You can be there for someone without losing yourself in their chaos. This kind of love is fierce and gentle. It says, I'm here, but I don't own you. I love you, but I won't rescue you. I choose you, but I don't collapse for you. The paradox of letting go here's the strange truth. When you stop grasping, love actually grows. Because it's no longer forced. It's no longer conditional. It breathes. And when love breathes, it deepens. When care isn't clinging, it becomes clear. You become free to give without fear, and others are free to meet you from a place of choice, not obligation. Letting go of the outcome doesn't mean love disappears. It means it transforms into something wiser. Try this. A loving release. Close your eyes. Picture someone you care about deeply. Now gently ask yourself, am I grasping or allowing? Am I loving or needing? Can I hold them with open hands? Breathe in, I love you. Breathe out, and I let you be free. Do this again and again, until your heart stops gripping and starts glowing. A love that liberates. You are not here to imprison love. You are here to embody it. The kind of love that does not bind or control. The kind that stands still as others change. The kind that doesn't need permission to remain open. In this kind of love, you discover something extraordinary. That the love you were trying to get from others is actually something you've been carrying all along. You don't have to grasp for it. You just have to remember it. Reflection prompt. Think of one relationship where your love may have turned into grasping. Ask yourself, what would this look like if I let go? Just a little. What if love could be lighter? In a world overflowing with words, silence is sacred. We are constantly speaking, explaining, defending, proving. We fill every pause with noise, afraid of what might surface if we don't. But silence is not emptiness. It is presence. It is power. It is peace. In Buddhist practice, silence is not just the absence of sound, it is the presence of awareness. When you stop speaking, something unexpected begins to speak back. Your breath, your body, your intuition, your soul. Why silence feels uncomfortable? Silence feels awkward because it reveals what the noise hides. Our restlessness, our insecurity, our unprocessed thoughts and emotions. But if you can remain still as the discomfort rises, you'll find that silence becomes a mirror, and eventually, a teacher. It teaches you to listen, not just to others, but to yourself. Not just to content, but to tone. Not just to what is said, but to what is felt. You begin to notice when your voice is driven by fear, when your reactions are masks for wounds, when your opinions are attempts at validation, and in noticing, you create space. Space to breathe, space to choose, space to come home to yourself. The power of not reacting. There is tremendous power in the ability to remain silent, to let a comment pass without defending, to let a trigger rise without reacting, to let someone else have the last word, not because you're weak, but because you're free. Silence is a form of restraint, but not suppression. It's refinement. It's the ability to say, I don't need to win this. I only need to remain whole. In the Sutta Nipata, the Buddha says, speak only when your words are more beautiful than silence. Silence as healing. Silence is where the nervous system recalibrates, where trauma begins to loosen its grip, where the soul begins to whisper truths you've been too busy to hear. When you're always reacting, you're always outside yourself. When you return to silence, you return to your center. Try this. Set aside 5 minutes today. No phone, no talking, no music. Just breathe and notice. Notice how loud your mind is. Notice how quickly you want to do something. Then return to stillness. Silence is uncomfortable at first, but like darkness before dawn, it holds the space for light to rise. Let your stillness speak. You don't always have to explain. You don't always have to be understood. Sometimes, your peace is explanation enough. Sometimes, your silence is the clearest boundary you can set. Sometimes, the most spiritual thing you can do is say nothing. Because silence is not withdrawal, it's alignment. And in that alignment, your energy returns. Your insight sharpens. Your presence deepens. Reflection prompt. What conversations or situations tempt you to fill silence with noise? What would it feel like to let your stillness speak for you instead? Surrender is not something that happens once. It's not a single, dramatic moment. It's a quiet decision, made again and again. Each morning, each breath, each moment of discomfort, you are given the choice: cling or release, control or trust, force or flow. The spiritual path is not about escaping life. It's about showing up fully, vulnerably, gently, and choosing to participate without interference. This is surrender. It's not giving up. It's giving over, not to helplessness, but to wholeness, not to fate, but to presence. The subtle invitations to let go. Surrender doesn't always come in crisis. Often, it comes in the small and ordinary, letting go of the need to respond immediately to a message. Releasing a thought that keeps circling your mind, walking away from an argument you've already won in your head, choosing silence when you're tempted to explain yourself, saying no without guilt. These are not acts of weakness. They are acts of self-remembrance. Each one says, I am not a prisoner of my reactions. I trust the flow more than the fear. I don't need to force this moment into my shape. A life of gentle surrender. Imagine living this way, waking up, breathing in, and whispering aloud, walking through your day with soft eyes, open hands, and a quiet heart, not trying to hold it all, not trying to fix what isn't broken, not trying to become someone you're not, but simply allowing, letting yourself be who you are, letting life be what it is, letting peace rise from within, not from perfection. This is not an action. It is conscious alignment. It is choosing to flow rather than force. The river reaches the ocean not by effort, but by surrender. Daily rituals of letting go can make surrender a sacred rhythm. Here are small practices to live the teaching. Morning breathwork. Begin your day with 3 mindful breaths. Inhale, I open, exhale, release. Mindful pause when you feel overwhelmed. Pause for 10 seconds. Ask, am I clinging or flowing? Evening journaling. Write down one thing I tried to control to die on, thing I allowed to unfold on, thing I'm ready to release. Body check and ask your body where it feels tight, clenched, or armored. Breathe into that place. Soften it. Let it go. When you forget, begin again. You will forget. You will cling again. You will grasp, worry, overthink. That's okay. This is not about perfection. It's about practice. And every breath is another chance. You don't have to master surrender. You only have to return to it with gentleness, with compassion, with trust. As Rumi said, try not to resist the changes that come your way. Instead, let life live through you, coming home to yourself. The whole journey from control to surrender is not about losing your power. It's about remembering where it really lives. Not in domination, not in reaction, but in presence. You are not here to carry the world. You are here to live inside it, open, awake, unburdened. Letting go is not the end. It's the beginning of living with peace, not pressure. Final reflection. Ask yourself softly, what have I been holding onto that no longer wants to be held? What part of me is finally ready to exhale? What would it feel like to live my life not in control, but in harmony? Then, as you close your eyes, breathe in peace. Breathe out resistance. Breathe in trust. Breathe out control. This is surrender, and this is your return.